Welcome to the Embodiment podcast. This show is for you if you see the body as more than a brain taxi. It's for people interested in coming home to the body as a holistic aspect of who we are and how we live. Episodes contain practical tips, exercises you can take away, and interviews with specialists from around the world. I'm your host for today, Mark Walsh. So on the show today, Miriam Hamui, probably mispronouncing that, I've tried to learn, from Mexico. She's joining us. She's an architect, a yoga teacher, and a somatic movement educator. So Miriam, welcome.
Yes, thank you. Welcome, Mark.
How did you get interested in the body?
Okay, it started when I was a little girl. I'm a girl with 4 brothers. I used to play alone pretty much. So I love to experiment with my body. I loved doing cartwheels and jumping off the bed, things like that. And I started doing ballet since I was 5 years old and also gymnastics. So what really was interesting for me with ballet and gymnastics as well was not really the technique, but when I had a chance to improvise, when I did improvisations in my dance class, I loved the opportunity to express through my body, and I was good at it. And then in gymnastics also, I was there for a while. I wasn't the best. I didn't have the best technique. I was quite flexible, but anytime I could express myself, like in floor exercises or on the beam where I could show who I am through my body, that really made me very happy, very comfortable. So I never stopped doing exercise. And when I was 16, I had my first approach to yoga. Here in Mexico, nobody did yoga. It was just a group of old people. I would say old, but probably they were my age by then, no? But anyhow, I would go to this group in the park. And in the group, it was my husband's father and mother would used to go every Saturday to do yoga. Mm-hmm. So we did this type of yoga where we would do very strange breathing exercises. We were standing, and then we would do exercises with the body. And then right afterwards, I would just go to sleep for an hour and a half. And I was very amazed, not really on the exercises that I did in class, but the effects that it did to my body and to my whole being. So I got married very young and I kept on doing exercises. I went into university. I studied architecture. And there wasn't a way to stay in yoga because there wasn't anything available for young people, not even for anybody. It was just this strange class I used to take. So by 2001, I was 32 by then. And I started my first formal yoga class. Yoga was introduced to Mexico. It was Iyengar. Mm-hmm. And again, it was the effect. I'm a person that I can imagine a lot of things. I could space out very easily, but I found that the practice really grounded me, and that was doing very good to me. And also, I was finishing architectural school because I did it very slowly, and because I studied married and I had 3 children in the way, so I would go out of college and come back. And when I was practicing yoga by then, I was finishing my school. I was very interested in how the structure of my body could hold into place, could sustain itself in any given shape. Mm-hmm. And now studying the structures in architectural school, well, they don't go quite near to what the human body was doing, just what I was experimenting while doing asana.
Yeah. Let me jump in here, Miriam, because I think you've said something interesting I want to pull out. Yes. So sure. You talked about the strong impact of embodiment, like I think this is underestimated that I remember being in yoga classes and coming out and being like, wow, I'm totally stoned. Like this is totally like a drug impact, or coming out and going, wow, I feel happy. And I haven't felt happy all week. Like I've been miserable all week. Okay. like there's this like inside out impact which can be quite strong from doing these kind of practices, and I feel like some people fall in love with the effect or the this, and some people fall in love with the shape. Because like when I was doing Aikido, I also was falling in love with like, hey, it looks cool, and I'm kind of a ninja, and I'm throwing people around. You know what I mean? Like, but that wasn't really the feeling. That was the form. And I want. It's like almost like two ways in, isn't it, to embodiment practices?
Well, yes, because back then when I was 16 years old, it was the effect.
Yeah,
absolutely. But when I was 32, exactly the half, the double the time. When I was 32. There was an effect, but I was thinking about the body. I was inside the body, so the effect was inversed. Instead of going into another place with my mind or in another state, I was grounded. Then I was grounded. Then I found out about these different states afterwards with my practice. But the grounding did really hit the mark. Really made a difference to me. Because it helped me deal with everyday life, So that's what I'm grateful for. So then I started reading on my own and also practicing on my own. I would go to class, but also on the other days that I wouldn't go to class, I was doing personal practice. And the first book I picked up to read about yoga was an anatomy book applied to yoga.
Mm-hmm.
And I really wanted to know what was going on inside there. So I was with the physical, which was great by then. And then it was, okay, when I turned 40, this was a turning point in my life. I'm 50 now. And when I turned 40, I had the opportunity to start, I was already working as an architect. I was by then I was doing freelancing, and I was about to start a project with my husband. He's also an architect. We were looking at a terrain and doing the previous studies to see how we could develop it.
Mm-hmm.
And at the same time, I went into an anatomy workshop, anatomy applied to yoga. Or anatomy, but living anatomy,
Mm-hmm.
Anatomía vivencial. So right there, it was in a yoga studio. I had an offer about signing up for a teacher training. Then the teacher trainings would last 3 years, and they were quite serious. And they weren't like, right now they are hundreds and hundreds of teacher trainings and very short ones, But now it was really a serious business, and I thought that was the thing for me. I wanted to go into that, and I spoke to my husband, and I did it in order to listen to myself saying it.
Mm-hmm.
And I said to him, I have this opportunity to enroll into a teacher training, and I would like to take it. And the only thing is that my priorities are my house, my husband, my family. I have 3 kids. And in order to keep up with those priorities and do the training, I would have to leave architecture and stand by. And I said, I really love architecture. I enjoy practicing it. But what yoga is doing to me, I don't have words to explain it. It comes from a deeper place. It comes from my soul. I don't know how to tell you. It comes out so naturally. And he said, go ahead and follow your heart. Do it. And yes, since then, architecture stayed in standby. So I started with a training, and I did 2 at the same time. One in Mexico that lasted 3 years. And I also did another one in Germany. My second teacher, she teaches yoga, but from an inner body orientation. It's called Vijnana Yoga. Vijnana means understanding or wisdom. And it's the wisdom that comes through experience with the body, because we do yoga with the body. We learn yoga. We know our minds through our bodies. So it was very interesting for me. So I would travel every summer for 3 summers in a row to Germany to study with this teacher, and I would stay there for 21 days. And then between summer and summer, I would do personal practice. I would read books, send in reports. And for that training in particular, which I was very confronted by it. It moved me very much. It was difficult for me. We would have to sit to meditate. The teacher never used the word meditate. She would just say, let's just sit. And we would just sit. And it was for an hour. That was the beginning of the day. We also did pranayama, didactics, etc., and philosophy. But this sitting, I would sit there, close my eyes. I would get fidgety. I would open my eyes and look at everyone else in the room, pretending they were doing something. My mind went all over the place. I think that was the moment that I truly understood the complexity of my own mind.
This is really confronting. That first time you really sit down, and an hour is pretty long. You know, I wouldn't start many beginners on that, but like it's the first
time. Not at all. I wouldn't recommend.
I'm crazy. You know, like I had a re-experience of this not long ago, the solitary retreat for the first time. And after a couple of days, I was like, I'm fucking crazy. I had no idea how crazy I was, you know, like really stealing mind. So clearly it could be disturbing. So did you give up on architecture, Miriam, or did that continue another way? Like you're loving it
in another way. So let me tell you. So for this training that I did in Germany, we had to do a final project, and we could do maybe a work of art, something that would express what yoga meant for us or what was moving us by that time, and express it through any means we would choose. So I decided, so this is what was happening already during these 3 years that I would go every summer to Germany. I had a journal. I like to write for myself. And I had a different notebook that would be to take my notes about yoga and about what I was feeling through the practice. And by the 3rd year, that notebook became only one, because my feelings of my everyday life were the same and had everything to do with my regular yoga practice. So I ended up with only one notebook. So that was a moment when I realized that yoga wasn't only asana, it wasn't only the philosophy that you study and you can say it's so interesting and it's so nice. No, it was more than that. It really delved into my being. It was part of my life. It was like brushing my teeth. So by the 3rd year, I decided that this final project was going to be a book where I would bring together everything that I am, because I am yoga, I am. I can say it's about me. So I came up with a book. It was a very simple book at the beginning, in which I wanted to talk about the experience of the body. And I wanted to use architecture as a way to convey this experience. Mm-hmm. And, the yoga tradition talks about the 5 koshas, or the 5 sheaths of the body, that go from the grossest to the subtlest. So the grossest being the physical body, then the energetic body, then the mental body, the body of wisdom, and the body of bliss. But those are terms, those are concepts that can only say that they were written in the Upanishads, and there they are, no? But really, how do you experience that while you are practicing? What is it about, no? So I said, if you inhabit your body, you also inhabit an architectural space. So why not do the analogy and explain it through metaphor? I think that would really penetrate into the heart of the reader. And any reader, the truth, I wanted to do a book that would be accessible to anybody, you know? So what I did is that I looked for just one piece of architecture that was very clear in its concept, in its architectural concept, or in its intention. There was when I was in architectural school, they would always told us that first, before drawing any line, we had to come up with an architectural concept, and everything that we would do, every stone that we would place, every line that we would draw, every decision that we would make had to be in accordance to that original architectural concept. So that really it touched me, So I said, there's a work of architecture that's truly congruent with its architectural concept. So I took, everybody knows about this piece of architecture. A lot of people know, especially in the United States. It's Frank Lloyd Wright's Falling Water. Mm-hmm. I don't know if you're familiar with it, which is a house perched on top of a waterfall.
Yeah, I saw some of his work in Chicago, but I've only seen pictures of that one.
So I had the opportunity years back to see it in person or in building. So I had the chance to experience all of its spaces. So I had that in myself, So I took that and I took the koshas. So it was a book filled of artwork or illustrations, and also photos, to come back and forth from architecture to yoga, as I was explaining the koshas of the body. So then I exposed my book at the end of my project. The people, there were a lot of Europeans, mostly a few Canadians, one person from Australia. They really enjoyed it. I did it in English first because it was for the training. And then after that, I decided to do the book formally now in Spanish. Mm-hmm. But then I went and I did my research so I could take photos, ask permission to use photos of Frank Lloyd Wright's work of art. For that, I had to call a few museums and some universities who owned those pictures. For a few I paid, for others I didn't. So I gathered the photos that I needed. And then I needed somebody to represent the koshas, a good illustrator. And for that, I chose my daughter. Not just because she is my daughter, she's a graphic designer, and she's very talented while drawing. She is very sensitive. And those subtle things I knew she would understand very good. So she even told me, look, for me to illustrate this, I need to read about the koshas wherever they are. There is any work written about them, but the original work. I need the original work. So I gave her copies of the Upanishads that we had from the training. She read about the kosha, and then she did the representation, the graphic representation of each of the koshas. So that was the book. That's how it came up, and that was really a conciliation of me of up to that moment, what I have lived in my body, in my life, which for me it's the same. I experienced life through my body since I was a little girl. So that book in Spanish, I did a presentation here in Mexico, which was an amazing experience. It was like giving birth to a new baby. Having my family there, friends, etc. My students, anyhow.
Okay, so I'm going to jump in. So yes. I know Mexicans are like Irish people. You interrupt each other, right? It's normal.
Sure.
Okay, I had a Mexican girlfriend, so that's what she told me anyway. So let's look at this then. So the idea of the body as architecture is kind of interesting anyway, right? Like architecture affects us psychologically. It has an impact on us. And, one way of describing embodiment would be like, okay, this is the psychological impact of the body as architecture. That would be one way of talking about it. There's also this very interesting phrase when you say you can't describe something, to say that's like trying to dance about architecture.
Dance?
Yeah, it's going to be confusing actually. Like they say, oh, that's dancing about architecture. Like
Okay.
it's used as an analogy for how you can't explain something. So I thought that just came to mind while I was listening to you there. So where are you going with all this? Like so there's the koshas, there's the architecture, like cut to the chase here. What are you talking about?
Okay. So it's like, inside of us and right at the very bottom of this koshas is the Atman, which is the self or the soul. No, that would be an analogy. The soul, the soul inhabiting the body with all its different subtleties, and it's also that same soul inhabiting with the body inhabiting an architectural space. So it's going from the specific to it's like blowing it up, like a holographic effect. So if you talk about the grosses, you can say the physical body, which you can touch, which you can feel while you are digesting. You can feel your digestion. That's very easy to come up with. Well, some people are not really aware of their digestion, but they can touch their bodies, no? So this would be analogous to the structure of the house and the materials which you can touch and feel, so which are there.
The grossest level, like there's bricks and there's walls and If
we go a little bit subtle, just underneath would be the pranamaya kosha, would be the energetic body, which is in our body. It's that energy that we can feel when you just take a run and you can feel this rush, that's even it's your breath is part of this energy. It gives you an idea of how it is moving, through the winds of your breath, and it fuels you. Even the energy from the food that you ingest, that's a word, I don't know.
Ingest, almost.
Ingest. Yes, the food that you ingest or the oxygen that comes into your lungs, you are always feeding, and you can feel that thing that you are feeding your body with. So that would be analogous. I am talking about the book now. I'm giving it out. But anyhow, I can go more subtle, because when you're designing, you have to think about how the sunlight is going to enter the house. How are you going to make good use of the heat, especially if you live in a very cold weather place, or how you are going to protect yourself from the heat, And you also have to think about how the wind is going to rush into the house. If you want a good gust of wind coming in and out because you live in a very hot climate, or you want to protect from that and you want to canalize it differently, but you think about canalizing the winds of the house all the time.
Sorry, canalizing, I don't know what that means.
Channeling.
Channeling. Got it. Got it. No, I just didn't understand.
So it's about channeling energies. Even when you think about the distribution of the house, is how you want people to behave while they're inhabiting the space.
And I think this is underestimated by people, is how much the spaces we're in really does impact ourselves, right?
Ooh, exactly. It's so subtle that you don't notice it, but you can sometimes say, "Oh, this place feels so nice. I feel just like home," and it's just a feeling. It might be a general description, but it's willing to do many, many little things. When you walk into a museum, it's all intended so you can go into certain directions and see what you need to see. They are forcing you into an experience.
Yeah, the same as a supermarket, and they set it up in a certain way according to their aims.
Exactly. So just think about when you're doing pranayama, which is pranamaya kosha, and you're doing your breathing exercises, You are creating the conditions so the energy or the oxygen is channelized differently, and you can feel it in your body. You can have different effects in the nervous system. So you see, this is the energetic. So would be the pranamaya kosha. You go a little bit deeper, and this is the body, the mental body. And Manumaya Kosha, this is where we talk about our thoughts, which are there all the time, but also it's the center for administrating what's needed to be done. All the directions are giving out through the nervous system to move your arm, to walk a little bit faster, and the body responds. So it's instruction and it's response, you know? So there's this part. And there's also this going all over around in the mind that could also be happening, you know. It can be focused, but it can also be going all over, you know. So here, when I go into the architectural space, the mind or the administration of all these functions of the body, the administration of all the functions in a house or in an architectural building, would be directed by the floor plans. The floor plans. When you draw, and with your lines you express where you want things to be and how you want them to work. So it's really intellectual, and it gives directions. Then I go into this Vijnanamaya Kosha, which I mentioned earlier, which is the knowing, but not intellectually. It's the knowing through experience. Is the body of wisdom. Mm-hmm. And that's where the architectural concept comes into place. That original idea in which every little aspect of the building responds to it. Every decision made, it responds to it. So here is where I take I use more photos to explain how falling water came about. And it's very interesting because Frank Lloyd Wright became very friendly with the person who commissioned him to do the house. And this person told him, I want a house. He showed him the waterfall, no? And he said, I want a house overlooking the waterfall. So the architect interpreted as a house over and looking the waterfall, no? So he literally perched the house on top of the falling water. So this way, the water would rush into the house, go through underneath, and then fall, no? So there are spaces in the house in which you can go down a set of stairs, and those stairs lead into a little pool of water, which is part of the falling water, of the waterfall. And so how the architecture plays with the outside of the house, merging into the inside, all the environment, the woods, the water, the wilderness. It comes into the house, and the house also opens up into the environment.
Okay, Miriam, I'm going to move you along a little bit here because we've had half our time. And so there's one more kosha to go, right?
That would be, yes, the bliss, the body of bliss. And this is when you can feel I cannot say happiness because it's not exactly happiness, but it's a feeling that you feel happy for no reason at all. So it's just is, no? And it's not because in relationship to anything else. It's just a feeling that comes from very deep within, and that it's the closest to the feeling of the soul. So here the bliss body would be the people that inhabit the space and that can feel at home within the space.
So I'm trying to get the kind of the benefit for listeners to going through all this.
Sure.
Like what is it? Is it just like about appreciating space differently? Like is it just an analogy that helps people understand koshas? Like what's the benefit of talking about it?
Okay. So the benefit about it is that you don't really have to be a yogi to enjoy the book, or an architect to enjoy the book, but you are a person with a body that experiences. So those things, to know about them, to know about the subtleties that your body can have, and you read about those and you said, yes, I have experienced that sometime, no? You can relate to that. You can relate, anybody can relate to any space the person is inhabiting, any space, open space, inside, anywhere. So it's about waking up the art of experiencing and, feeling happy with the body. That would be the purpose.
Like, what are the things that can, like, I'm trying to get across, like, you're trying to find your key idea here that can really help people.
Okay, so the key idea is this, no? You have a body, and it's just an invitation to get in touch with the subtleties of your body and understand them with the experience of inhabiting any space.
Nice.
Uh-huh.
So it's about the experience of your own body, but also about how you are in actual architecture and spaces as well, right? Like I'm convinced that most people aren't noticing the effects on their various layers of the body in architecture, or else they wouldn't put up with such crappy architecture.
Exactly.
Like just there's a lot of buildings I just feel like office buildings. I just feel gross, like.
Yes, I know.
And it's sometimes quite subtle. It's not like I'm physically sick on that physical kosher. It's like, yeah, feeling, or like, blah feeling. Like that feeling I get quite a lot of modern architecture.
Yes, it does happen. It does happen. And those may be architects that are not in tune with themselves, or maybe just marketing, getting good money out of what you are designing, how to make the profit.
Yeah, in Russia quite a bit, and there's Soviet architecture that really feels like it's there to intimidate you.
Okay.
Like Dumayu, the Parliament building there, which was the old Soviet building, or the KGB. I was staying right next to the KGB building, and even though they've painted it like a nice color now, it's still got these columns and windows with bars on, and from the outside, let alone inside, there's this real sense of like intimidation there, and it's something I physically feel when I walk past that building, even if I didn't know it was a KGB building. They're not called the KGB anymore; they've rebranded FS8 or something. But there's a quality to that building.
So maybe that was the intention, and they did it well, no? If that was the intention, no? They got it across, and yes, they wanted you to feel intimidated, and they feel their purpose.
Yeah. So
your kosha is being affected.
Yeah. That kind of the mental, emotional kosha, I think, particularly in that case, it's yeah. And so I guess in terms of how we manage our own space, this is pretty important information as well, right? Just in terms of how we make our own houses, for example.
Exactly. And I wanted to use a home, a place where we really live, instead of getting a very nice office building. No, I wanted more to use a home, a house that can be your home, no?
So in my house, I've got to think, okay, am I physically going to be well here? Like this is things like we don't have so many chairs in my house, so we're getting up and down from the floor a lot, which is, good for you, squatting and things like that. And then there's do I feel, is there a kind of flow through here? And is there emotionally, is there a warmth and homeliness to the place? And even on the most subtle level, is this a home that inspires me, into something transcendent?
Yes.
It's the kind of thing you're talking about here. I hope you don't mind me being a bit fierce with you back. I'm really trying to tune in to what's most useful here.
No, exactly. And when you're at your house, you can place a vase with flowers in a place, and in exactly that place, no, not in any other place. There's more to, and the reason is more than intellectual.
Yeah.
It's felt, how you want things arranged, how you want the colors that you choose. Everything has to do with the feeling inside. It's in there.
Yeah. My colleague I've known for 3 years came into my house today for the first time, because normally we meet abroad, and she happened to be down, and she came in for a meeting. We're writing a book together, my friend Maud from Paris, and she was like looking around my house really interested, because she was like, oh, this is the space that forms the person I know.
Okay. Yes.
She also laughed that I had, like, in my living room, it was like, my living room is 2/3 practice space and 1/3 living room. And she said,
okay.
by how you allocate space, what's important to you.
It's the same as me. I'm using my living room as my yoga space, and well, it's the nicest place in my house, so why not do it the best place? No. Yeah.
It's fun as well to see my wife and I, like, we have different personalities, and that it's like not exactly a battle, because we have a certain harmony between us, but she's more chaotic and I'm more ordered. So like, you see her parts of the house, like there's parts of the house that are kind of more hers, and parts like that are more mine. And you really see that expression in those places, and then her side will like creep into my side, and I'll ruin those. And it's not really a battle, but it's like two personalities kind of inhabiting the same physical space.
Exactly, and that physical space gets its own personality that comes from your wife and you. No, what comes about of you living in that same space? No, it gets a shape, it gets a style. No.
And I remember, like, before she moved in, like, people said, Mark, it's a nice flat, but it's, it kind of needs a woman, like they would feel that in the flat, that it wasn't much femininity here.
So that's the point. It's being felt.
Yeah.
It's being felt all the time.
And to be clear, I buy flowers for the flat. So it's not like she was coming in and decorating everything pink or some shit like that. They didn't mean it like a stereotyped way. They meant in a more subtle way.
Nice. Yeah.
Okay, so what are the other sort of practical takeaways from this stuff that can help people?
Okay. I would say that would be about it. No? It's simple. It's not philosophical. It's not deep. It's just an awakening. For me, that's enough. You just awake that, you become aware of it, and it stays with you. It stays with you wherever you walk, wherever you go, or whatever you do with your body.
I was really noticing today, like, I'm in the middle of organizing this conference and I'm very busy and life's a bit chaotic. And I was noticing my house was getting messier than normal, And and I was like, okay, maybe I need to kind of bring some more order to this evening and spend the 20 minutes cleaning up. And, there's that real relationship between the two. Like, one expresses the other, but also one creates the other. So it's like my mind creates the space, but the space also creates my mind, right? Like, every Buddhist temple in the world knows this. This is why Buddhist temples are generally well-ordered, beautiful places.
Yes.
It's profound. It's simple, but it's profound. And your practice now, then, is it you're moving from, this formal, it sounds quite traditional kind of yoga background, to a more kind of like you're studying more somatics and things like that now?
Yes, that's right. So I'm teaching yoga since 10 years ago. And also I did a somatic movement training here in Mexico. People came from the United States to give it to us. It took 3 years. And it was right after I published the book. I started with the somatic training. And it was just the thing that would give the words to what I was feeling. So I studied all the systems in the body, the muscle system, the skeletal system, the digestive system, nervous system, etc., etc. I also studied the patterns in the body, basic neurological patterns, etc., and to get acquainted with my body through experience, to know my body, to know all that anatomy, but actually through experience, through breath, through movement, through sound of my voice, vibration, that would give me a feel for my body. So the training was to help others get a feel for their own bodies. So now I could speak with terms, with actual terms of the body. And I was teaching at the same time. So this somatic work was penetrating my teaching constantly, because it was penetrating my own yoga practice, personal practice. And it was penetrating my writing. I kept on writing articles. I have a blog, and every 15 days I would publish an article. And it all came from my experience. My experience and my body brought up new ideas all the time. So it's a never-ending process. So as of now, a typical yoga class can start with maybe an exercise to get in tune with a certain connection that the body can make. And then that connection, I bring it up while we are practicing asana, and that connection can also come into being when we are practicing pranayama or just sitting. And so each class has a concept, like the architectural concept, a concept that I want to get through my students, I want to convey. So we can just do free movement at the beginning in order to understand, to get the feeling for that concept. Mm-hmm. And that concept is also brought up as we are doing asana and the rest, So, and my group, I have a regular group for 10 years now, and I also give private. But this regular group, we have grown together. So my students have become more and more sensitized in their bodies. So the same asanas that we practice, because there's a set of asanas and that's it. But how deep you can get into each asana, that is another story. So they can come into class and again practice, Trikonasana, but each time it's going to be a richer experience.
Yeah, so maybe this is also a distinction between, to use the architecture analogy, it's this nice distinction between different kinds of yoga. So there's yoga which is purely creating shape, and there's yoga which is really through experience, yoga which is experience-based and not external shape-based. So, there's this analogy of, are you thinking of how the building shapes the psychology, or are you simply making a shape with the building because it's a nice shape? Like exactly. This seems to be like a big... how can I put this? This is a big dialogue in yoga right now. There seems to be two main groups of people, the kind of shape architects and the kind of inner shape architects.
Okay. So this comes from inside. The shape it creates itself all the time, the shape on its own. They don't need to look at my body. I try to be as eloquent as possible. So through my voice, they can go into their bodies to experience. And sometimes I use a little bit of touch to help them. Or I instruct them to touch themselves. Nobody touched their own selves, no? They always take the instructions and try to repeat whatever is said.
Yeah.
But it's not that. It's getting to the feeling of it. The touch your pelvis. Know where the rim of your pelvis is. Know where your sit bones are. Know how the weight, when you are sitting down, how the weight falls into your sitting bones, how you are sustained through gravity, how gravity penetrates your body and gives you this sense of stability in whatever is touching the floor, no? Those type of things is what I talk about in class and what I convey through yoga.
Yeah. I'm also curious, we haven't had many guests on from Central America. I believe maybe you're the second, if I remember rightly. And what's the sort of state of embodiment in Mexico? Is there, how would you describe Mexican somatics generally, the kind of cultural piece there? I'm curious about that because there's like so much embodiment practice comes from the States or Europe. It's just kind of nice to have someone on who's from somewhere else.
It's a very interesting question. You see, the first somatic training was this one that I took, and from a person who is a student of Bonnie Bainbridge Cohen.
Mm-hmm.
And he's from the United States. And he was amazed. He and two teachers. The other teacher is also American but lives in Mexico. So the two teachers, I think they were very pleased with the response of the Mexicans for this reason. And it was very new to us, very new. But we liked it very much. We are very touchy-feely, you know?
Yeah, I've had Mexican partners and friends, and there's a very communal, emotional, and tactile culture.
Woo!
I wonder if it doesn't lend itself a little bit better to somatics than the average.
Yes, of course. We would see, you could see all the group in any session that they would give. You can see all the group all mixed up into a soup in the middle of the room, like moving and touching each other and experiencing. And well, no, the response was amazing. They are finishing the third generation. Each generation lasts 3 years, so they've been here for a while, and they are going to start the fourth generation of somatic movement. And to this place, we are some yoga teachers. We come to learn this, and dancers, a lot of dancers.
The average Mexican knows how to dance, right? Like, is it true, like in Colombia or Brazil, the average Mexican knows how to dance compared to the average Englishman or average American?
That for sure.
Like, that's a big difference, right? If you grow up dancing in terms of being in your body and expressiveness, like this is significant.
There is more acquaintance with the body, and we still need more literacy. Because here we are talking about Mexico City here, and we are very used to being in the traffic, in the car all day long, and it's very chaotic. Chaotic.
Yeah, you got it.
And we do forget, but we remember very easily. It's in our culture.
Yeah, it does seem to me like I've seen South American students, and I'm imagining Central American students may be similar. They learn quicker, but I also see a better expressiveness, but I see a problem with boundaries quite often. Like, is that the same in Mexico as well? Like you said, like everyone's like in a puddle in the middle together. Like
yes.
In Spanish people, I see this a little bit. They're so communal, they find it hard to assert themselves like away from the group. You know, they find it hard to be like, no, mother, I do this differently. You know, and like that's true there too.
Yes, sometimes if you want to act a little bit more individually, they might think you are egocentric.
Okay, who do you think you are? Yeah, like I had a Spanish girlfriend, and she'd be like, "Look, I have to go out because all my friends are going out, and I don't want to, but I have to, and everyone's going out. It's awful if I don't go out." And I'd be like, "Just don't fucking go out. You know, you don't want to go out, don't go out." Okay, that's interesting to me. Anything else you want to say about embodiment in Mexico or Mexican embodiment? Just because it feels like it's becoming a big influence on North American culture now, right? Like there's a lot of Mexican people in the States. It's increasingly influencing the culture. Last time I was there, I saw Spanish on a lot of public buses and things. So it seems like that's, you know, the Spanish people raising raising the children of Americans. And it's like becoming an influence, right?
Yes, quite a lot, especially in the South and especially in the food, which is a very nice influence. Everybody, yes, the cook or the waiter, they are all Mexicans, and they know about making people happy through food. We have that, and it's very nice that the United States can have that experience, that privilege. A lot of Americans love Mexican food.
Yeah. My Mexican girlfriend actually was a chef, and the real qualification she had was she was able to speak Spanish, and so many of the people in the kitchen spoke Spanish. That was a like a real qualification amongst, fairly high-end restaurants, as well as kind of right down to the sort of fast food places. So, okay, interesting. Well, we need to wrap up fairly soon. Where can people find out about your stuff? Where can they find you, Miriam?
Okay, I have written so far 2 books. This first one that I explained, that one is available in English and Spanish. So you look it up in Amazon, Yoga and Architecture, The Art of Dwelling. That's the title in English.
And they can get things through your website as well, which is just...
yes, and the books are in my website as well.
MiriamYoga.com. Good, you got that URL early, huh? There's lots of Irish Miriams right now who are kind of not.
Really?
It's a very Irish name, Miriam. Yeah.
I didn't know that. It's Israeli. It's Hebrew, no? But anyhow, it's nice. It's nice that I got it.
Catholic tradition. Yeah.
That would be more direct, because if you go into my website, you can see my 2 books. The second one is in Spanish. It's Medita desde tu cuerpo, meditate from your body. So that's truly an embodiment. It's got exercises that you can go along with to help you understand meditation through your body.
And I know we have quite a few listeners in Spanish-speaking countries as well, okay. So people can check it out there. Okay, and do you have a parting message about the body?
A message about a parting?
Yeah, like a leaving message, a final message.
Yes. My message would be, whatever you do, wherever you go, leave it like living through the experience of your body. You'll get the most valuable and the most authentic information from there.
Miriam, muchas gracias.
De nada, mucho gusto.
Subscribe to get more, and you can also leave us a review on iTunes, which helps with our rankings, so really appreciate that. Equally, if you want to support the podcast even more, then fund us. Go to Patreon, give us $1 per episode. Those who don't know, Patreon's a really good way of supporting things you want to see more of in the world. I know so much is available for free now, and what I'd say is a lot of energy and effort goes into this podcast. I put it out there for free so everyone can get it. Maud and I work on this. Everyone that wants it can have it for free. And if you want to support us, it is really appreciated. So it's patreon.com/Mark Walsh. And of course, if you want any in-person training, you can visit embodiedfacilitator.com. There's loads more resources there too.
Till next time, welcome home to the body.